Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as a comeback coach. Guys, it's going to be an awesome episode. We're going to be talking about recovery, resilience, how to change your life. We're going to give you 3 steps you can do to change your life in the next 24 hours if you stay till the end. And our amazing guest is actually going to be giving something away. So you got to make sure you stay till the end of this. This episode is being brought to you by Celsius Energy Drink. It's keeping me going, helping me get energy for my 6 interviews a day, but it's also helping me cut weight. I've lost 20 pounds by using Celsius. I love you. Thank you, Celsius. And the podcast is also brought to you by the new top-selling book, The Podcast Blueprint, How to Go from Thought to Profit in 8 weeks. And I'll tell you about it in the end. But my friend Tammy is on. I'm so blessed to have her on. I've been on her amazing podcast. She's truly an amazing person. She's changing the world one person at a time. So Tammy, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. Thanks for having me, Richard.
Oh, it's my honor. And I love your show, by the way. And guys, if you don't, my episode, I'm going to be dropping today. So you're going to see it all over my social media, all over 35 different channels. So make sure you check out her podcast. So Tammy, first question is, what is your definition of resiliency? Because obviously we're going to go into it, but your life hasn't always been sunshine, rainbows, and Skittles. So what is your definition of resiliency?
My definition is really, honestly, the simplest version it can be. It's getting up when life knocks you down and continue to get up and get up and get up. You think of Rocky Balboa, just getting hit and getting back up. And that to me is what it is. But it's looking inside yourself and really knowing that everything you have inside yourself to get to the next step or to move forward.
I love it. I love that Rocky thing, get knocked down 7 times. As long as you get up the 8th time, you're good.
Yep.
So give us a quick down and dirty about where you come from, how you grew up, and how did you become the force of nature that you are today?
Well, I grew up with 2 very tumultuous, addicted parents. So I grew up, they were both addicts, both alcoholics. My mother was a drug addict. So it was from day one. I mean, she apparently, I found out when I was in college, was doing cocaine when she was pregnant with me. So it literally started at birth, all of the challenges. And then it just kept going. I mean, it was very, there was police there all the time. There was fighting. There was no official diagnosis with my mother, but there was a lot of mental illness. My father was a Vietnam vet. He had he suffered from, now we all, it's PTSD. Back then it wasn't really even talked about. So there was a lot of just confusion and anger and fighting and sleeping under ditches in the road because it was the only safe place. And I did what I thought I had to do. I survived. I went through life and I did everything I could and put on all these happy masks and just to make sure I saved face with the family and that the family didn't look like they were out of control. And then I went to high school and I graduated by the grace of God. I graduated college, got married, and then realized that my life was not going well. I was doing everything I could to numb any kind of pain. I didn't even know what it was like to feel emotions. So I went on this journey. When I got pregnant with my first child, I thought, this is not the life I want for my child. I don't know how to fix it, but I know it's not right. And I knew it was more than just doing the opposite of what was done to me. I knew there had to be more productive ways I could go about just taking the opposite polar extreme, because I knew that wasn't healthy either. So I threw myself into, that was when I was 26. I'm 55 right now. So literally almost 30 years, and it's still a journey. I'm still learning every day. But several years ago, it dawned on me, wow, I've been doing all these different things and I have shortcuts now. Things that took me 10 years to figure out don't need to. They can take me 10 minutes to explain to someone else. So I thought, what a better time to pull out this bag of tricks and help people.
I love it. So, okay, as you know, as we talked on your show, I grew up parents of addict. My mom's clean 30 years now, so thank God for that. But for me, my solace was reading. That was my escape. And like for me, when my parents would argue, I would go into the bathtub, fill up the tub so I couldn't hear anything. And I would just read anything I could read, encyclopedias, books, whatever. But that was my safe place because I can read a book and it can transport me to anywhere in the world. And now
Mhm.
I've read over 6,000 books. I have 18 books going right now, and 2 audiobooks. So what was your solace as a little kid? What was your what was your safe haven that let you get away from what you were going through?
I was thinking about that because we actually kind of had this conversation before, and I don't even know. Like, I didn't have a say. I literally would just go and I would sleep on the floor of my closet. I slept a lot. When I look back now, I really feel like I just dissociated. I mean, I did a lot of reading, and that was more later on. But when I was younger, I literally slept. That was my thing. I would go and hide and sleep. So that was I was running away at 6 years old, and I was thinking about that, and I was like, what did I do? But I guess if I had to pick something, it would be journaling. I wrote a lot. I had just books and books and books of these little journals, even before I read some of them now, and they were clearly when I was in like third grade, second grade, and sloppy and messy and hard to read, and looks like probably tear stained because there were stains all over the pages and stuff. So I would probably say journaling is was my go-to.
Okay, so now you mentioned emotions because I realized with myself for a while I just buried every emotion.
Mhm.
Whether it was because I knew, wait a minute, I'm not going to get involved with friends because we're going to be moving into another place in another month or so. So I'm not even going to make friends. So for me, I buried a lot of my emotions until I became an adult in my 40s and 50s to realize, it's okay to be emotional. It's okay to have emotions, but we just have to. I have to learn how to use my emotions the right way. So talk about, because I've been clean 35 years. I just celebrated. And something we talk
Congrats.
about all the time is even in the military is we know how to put things in certain boxes and in certain rooms. But sometimes when you're clean, when you try to get clean and sober and you can't use that glass of wine, you can't use that Xanax. You got to live life on life's terms. And that's when the emotions start coming out. So talk about what it was like to finally become emotional again and start unwrapping those boxes.
It was scary. I think that's the best way to explain it at first, because I remember the first time I went to a therapist and something that she said, something happened. I don't even remember what the occasion was, but she's like, well, how do you feel? Like, are you mad? Are you sad? And I literally stopped and I said to her, I don't know. I don't feel anything. So she's like, okay, well, that's where we're going to start then. So I literally had to become acutely aware. Like, it was crazy the things that I went through that I didn't feel anything for. I mean, crazy now that I think about it. But I really had to just stop and be aware. Like, if something made me mad, I just would go and I would sit down and I'd be like, that's okay. I'm mad. Like, I had to name it first because I didn't even know what these things were. Like, and then I would let it kind of fester up, and I would be, I sometimes my therapist told me, punch a pillow, punch something if you're mad. And obviously not something unproductive like someone's face sometimes, which is what I had the urge to do. But it was punch a pillow, just go out in the woods and scream. And it was very liberating, though. It was like every time when I would sit down and I would journal, and I journaled through the whole time. But when I really let myself feel what I was feeling as I was writing, sometimes I would have to stop for like a half hour, go outside and just cry. And it was like lifting something out of my gut. It was like something in my stomach was getting lighter every time I felt an emotion. But you're right, I had to put them in check.
But now something, and for me, I'm a Christian guy. I believe in God, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. But I also believe, that sometimes the things we think are emotions aren't really emotions. Like for me, I believe that love is a commitment. It's not an emotion because my wife, I know she loves me, but she doesn't like me all the time. And I'm not her favorite person a lot of the time, but I know that she's committed to me and she loves me. So I believe, like I said, love is a commitment, not an emotion, and you really can't fall out of commitment, right?
No.
So talk to us about how sometimes. And my wife just got an amazing book. I can't wait to read it. It's called "Your Brain Is Lying to You." And I love that because sometimes some of the emotions that we feel, they're not even real. Like, our brains, we think, we're not good enough because I suffered with imposter syndrome for a long time. And somebody once said to me, your brain is lying to you. Don't feel that emotion. So talk a bit about what emotions really are and how to defeat some of those negative emotions like fear, anxiety, imposter syndrome.
Well, I kind of look at emotions differently too, because like love, like to me, I remember the first time I felt love. Now, but I agree with you, and I've never looked at it from that point of view, is that love is commitment. But yeah, I remember the first time, and it was with an 8-week-old puppy. So, and it was like I had never felt anything in my body that stirred up something like that when I held a puppy, and it literally like melted my heart. So that, like, I would consider that was emotion to me. But the fear, the anxiety, yeah, those are things that your mind is an amazing thing. Like fear to me is such a good safety mechanism. It's there to, you should be afraid. If there's a saber-toothed tiger or there's a wolf coming at you, you need to be afraid, but then you need to be able to put that in check and regulate it and come back to normal. But I think fear and anxiety and stuff, it's there, but it can be rethunk, or it can be reworked, or it can be diluted, I guess you could say, or washed out a little bit. Because I think those are things you have to stop and think, okay, this is anxiety. This is, I am anxious. I am fearing, feeling this feeling of craziness in my head. But what can I do to calm it down? Like, why is it coming here? So I don't know if I'm really answering your question,
No,
but
I get it. Yeah.
yeah, it's, the fear, the anxiety, those are all things that are normal. You should be anxious if something scary comes at you, but you also need to be able to sit, like, acknowledge it, and then figure out what you're going to do with it, and then go back to normal.
Well,
So,
but and when I walk outside today, hopefully I don't see a saber-tooth tiger. Um, that would
that'd
be
be cool.
awesome. That would be awesome. But a lot of people in life, they fear things that they shouldn't fear because like we've talked about before, that you know everything you want in life is on the other side of fear.
Yes.
And a lot of people are so worried about what other people think that they don't even act. Like if we would have said 10 years ago, hey, we're going to start a podcast and we're going to talk to people all around the world on this little box. And if we worried what other people said, we would not be talking. We would not be chatting right now. So
Nope.
about, how to make sure that you're not letting others put fear into you. And because like I said, if you're getting chased by a saber-tooth tiger, you have a lot more issues than talking about recovery and resilience. So
And I
talk.
don't even know why I came up with saber-tooth tiger. That was kind of crazy. I think because we were talking about like cavemen and their fight and flight, I think I was just talking to someone about that. But that was kind of obscure.
But I like that, and it makes a lot of sense. So talk about fear and how everything you want in life is on the other side of fear.
It is. And when you talk about children or anybody that has gone through any amount of trauma, and it completely rewires their brain. And I always tell people it's not the rewire the brain of your conscious, I'm going to make a decision. It's the rewiring of that subconscious. So let's say your parents are telling you you're never going to amount to anything. Let's just, and I must have heard that. You probably heard that 75,000 times. You're never going to be anything. You're never going to do anything. So you get the not enoughs. I call it, it's the best way to put it. You're not good enough, smart enough, funny enough. It's just the not enoughs. And you go through life with that. So then, like you said, when an opportunity arises, even though in your conscious mind, you're going, I can do this. Your subconscious mind, that younger little you is jumping out going, no, you can't. You're never going to be enough. You're never going to do enough. So those are the things you have to deal with. And I think everything stems from way back when. Now, there are specific things where you might have absolutely zero trauma, and then you go through something very traumatic at 15. So maybe that's where it stems from. But these negative little nagging inner critic voices is all your subconscious. So that's where you have to go, and you have to literally tackle that. I'm reading a book right. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, because I agree with you, and I've been following everything you're doing. If your podcast numbers have gone up, I take full responsibility, because I've listened to every episode at least once. But when I was growing up, my mother would always say she wasn't good at math. She would always say my real father was never good with his hands. He always broke stuff. And my mother always said, "Oh, I'm afraid of technology." But even now, as a 55-year-old man, if I have to write out a check, I get nervous, because I'm playing that tape back. I'm old. Remember, tape, guys. If you guys don't know what a tape is, look it up. But I still play those tapes back. You're not good at math. Maybe you're not good with your hands like your father was. Maybe you're not good with your tech. So sometimes I have to use what Tony Robbins and Ed Milet talk about, NLP, to reprogram my brain to say, okay, maybe you're not great at it, but we can handle it.
Right.
I'm struggling right now, because for my first 6 years of podcasting, I used nothing but a phone, an iPhone. Now I have computers and laptops, and I get worried when I'm like, wait a minute, I'm just trying to figure out Opus clips. Why am I scared? You know what I mean? But because those tapes play in your mind, and sometimes we have to be able to try to start to reprogram those tapes in your head. So talk about that a little bit, is how to change the tapes going on in your head.
It's a lot of it is NLP. It is taking the words and giving it new meaning. Just giving, it's a good example is one of my clients was talking to me about walking into work the other day, and she said that someone literally raised an eyebrow at her, and that negative, self-critic immediately went, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? It was immediately. So I said to her, maybe she raised her eyebrow because she had a bug on her eye. Maybe she raised her eyebrow because the sun hit her wrong. Like, give things new meaning. Not everything is about catastrophe. Not everything is about it's going to be bad. And that's what we do when we are trained like that, and our brains are trained like that. That's what we think. We think everything is going to be bad, because at the end of the day, it's all because we don't feel good enough. I'm actually reading a book for probably the umpteenth time right now, Worthy, with Jamie Kern Lima.
Yep.
And it's all about just thinking you're worthy. And she, of course, has, she's spoken on Tony Robbins' stage. She's been up there with all of these people that have those great minds. But it's just an attitude of positivity and just rethinking things and arguing with that inner critic, because you hear it, like you said, when you're learning Opus clips or whatever, you hear that voice going to you, I can't do this. This is too hard. Argue with it. Be like, oh my God, Richard, what is wrong with you? Of course you can do this. Physically out loud, argue with that voice. And that's one of the things I tell people to all the time. When you hear that inner critic, because that is your subconscious talking, stop and rebuke it. Go back, review, like tell it to sit down and shut up if you gotta.
And sometimes, when I'm having those thoughts, I try to go back to my wins that I've had. You know,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's winning Soldier of the Year, you know, whether it's whatever I won at, and I try to put that emotion with this other emotion, and they kind of negate each other. So, like, I was
Absolutely.
thinking, okay, I'm worried about going on a laptop and worrying about learning Opus clips, which is a program. And I'm like, but wait a minute, you spent 23 years in the military. You've been all over the world in charge of millions of dollars of equipment. You've done all these things and you're worried about a program. So for me, it's kind of like, oh yeah, let me just take it slow. Let me just play with it and figure it out and it'll work. So, but now that comes to another point I want to talk about, because I'm a big, and this may sound woo woo and foo foo, guys. I don't care because it's true. I'm a big Tony Robbins, Ed Milet, Tim Ferriss kind of guy, and I believe everybody in this world, everybody that's alive right now, has something in their brain called the reticular activating system. And what the RAS is, it's the Facebook page of your mind. That whatever you heart on or whatever you like on Facebook or Instagram, whatever, they're going to show you more of. And your body has something called the RAS system, which means that whatever you start consciously looking for, unconsciously, you're going to find it.
Yes.
And I tell everybody, like, what does that mean? I'm like, how many guys and girls ever went to the car dealership, picked out the color, picked out the car you wanted, and as soon as you drove off the lot, you see that car everywhere? Well, it's the same thing with the RAS system, that whatever you look for, you're going to find. If you're looking for happiness, if you're looking for health, you're going to find it. If you're looking for despair and doom, you're going to find it. So talk to us, Tammy, about the woo-woo, about the reticular activating system and the brain.
I think it's absolutely amazing. And there's sayings like the what you think about, you bring about. And all of those sayings are so true. You know, you're only, it is very true. Like you said, you not only start noticing those things, but it's like you start thinking that way. So let's talk about gratitude. If something happens to you and you get cut off at a traffic light, instead of being like, you know, and all these bad words, how about be thankful or grateful that he didn't hit you, and be grateful that you have the freedom in your life to not have to be in such a hurry. So when you start, I mean, that's just a small example, but you know, you talk about road rage. My husband has horrible road rage. And I'm like, why? And he's like, because everybody's in such a hurry. And I'm like, well, aren't you thankful that you're not? Like, that's pretty cool. So it's the same thing. And then you start bringing stuff about that when you are just happy, like you said, that it's a beautiful day out. You seem to, every day you're going to notice now it's a beautiful day. And eventually, when you do this enough, eventually, even if it's not so beautiful a day, you're going to look at a cloud and you're going to go, wow, I bet you that cloud's going to pass and it's going to be a beautiful day. So it literally is a snowball effect. And people say to me, you know, I mean, I use, and I'm not the one obviously that termed this phrase, but start thinking at what, you know, when something happens in life, think of it as happening for you, not to you. Because if you can find the positive in every single situation, when the big things come at you, put it in perspective. Like you said, I mean, it's a computer program, and you spent how many years at war? I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, wow, you survived that, and now you're worried about this little thing, and you're thankful. Like, oh, thank goodness, all I have to do is learn how to kick this little video clip program. It'll take 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's all mindset. It's all, and I love your brain. I mean, well, obviously I love your brain because I listen to all your stuff too now. I've been binge listening. Your podcast, by the way, is freaking like just life on steroids, learning every second. I love it. Absolutely love it. But yeah, it just keeps you going. It keeps you positive. And that's one of the biggest things. And that's why I go back to the resilience. Like, it's one moment in time. You're going to get past it. You just need to think about the next good step.
Now, as you see, I'm writing stuff down because I do have a traumatic brain injury. And there's a lot of stuff that I'm talking about. So if you see me writing something down, I'm not ignoring you. I'm actually writing it down because it's something that I want to get to.
You're fine.
But something that you said, which I love, and you said a couple things, but once I read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and then I wondered, where did he get his knowledge from? So I went back to listen to, Dale Carnegie. And something that the Carnegie brothers always talked about was your obsessions become your possessions. And I believe that because the brain hasn't really changed in 200 years. We still have the same brain. Now we know what it is and we had to name it. So I wanted to talk about that, but I also wanted to talk about something, I lost my vision, 60% of my vision a week before I was supposed to fly down with Ed Milet on his plane and go hang out with him for the weekend. And I called him, I said, I can't make it. I lost my vision. And he said, Rich, he says, nothing has ever happened to you. Everything has happened for you. And
Love it.
Everything is a teachable moment. So, and I think for me, when I talk to a lot of people that are struggling with PTS or anything like that, and I rewired my brain to think, yeah, I was abused as a child, but that happened for me so I can help other people that are struggling with that today. So anything that happened in my life, now I realize my pain became my purpose. So talk about that. Is like you said it before I even said it, that nothing happens to us, but everything happens for us.
And I agree. I love that saying. There's so many sayings that when you listen to read all these same books and everything, they hit you so hard because it's so true. And people would say to me like, okay, Tammy, they would challenge me. Tell me how being locked in a closet when you were 4 years old happened for you. I'm like, well, 1, I'm not afraid of the dark. 2, I can find food absolutely anywhere. And 3, I love closets. Like, let's be real. I know it was weird, but so it's like, that's a small example, and it doesn't have to be too, for the people that are out there listening that are not out there using their pain to coach other people. That's just one small, that's a huge thing, but that's just one example. Let's say, unfortunately, I had to learn to lie. I was a classic chronic. I was good at it because I had to for survival. But let me tell you what, it made me a great salesman. So it's like, that's another example. So I took that thing that happened to me, and yes, I went through a stage where it was very negative in my life to where I wasn't telling the truth. And at first it was all, survival and everything else. And then it became, well, it was just habit. But then it became, wow, I'm really good at this. I can be a really good manipulator. So let's use it to be positive. So I know that sounds crazy, but that's another example. So again, it's something that happened to me and I learned from it. And now I use it to an event. Well, not now, I'm a terrible salesperson now, but I use it for my benefit. So it doesn't always have to be, I believe 100% like me, my pain was so that I could help other children or adults or whatever it is, because my heart breaks for them, because I just figure there's more to it. And anytime you can share your story, it's helping someone. But I just think it's true. So everything that happens, instead of being like, wow, why does this always happen to me? Just stop yourself. The minute those words start to come out of your mouth, as soon as you say, why do I always, that is your first clue to stop and think about what you're about to say to yourself.
And I want to thank 19 Cop Dog for showing up and for hanging out with us today. I just wanted to say hi. If you have any questions for us, please drop them down below, and I'm sure we're going to answer those questions. So I want to thank you. And by the way, I love my first responders, and thank you for keeping us safe. So
God bless you all. Yes.
And like I said, I'm writing this stuff down, but I'm a gratitude guy. I'm a big gratitude guy, and I have a hack that's changed my life. And obviously I learned it from my friend Patrick Mudge. But when I go to bed at night, first thing I do is I wrap my arms around my wife. I pray for her happiness. I kiss her on the forehead, pray for her happiness, pray for her health, pray that she knows that I love her forever. And then I reach down and I pet my dog and I pray for my dog for her health and happiness. But what I'll do is before I go to bed is I'll say 3 things that I'm grateful for that happened during my day. And this episode is going to be one of them, guaranteed tonight. And then I just thank the Lord. I said, thank you. Thank you for letting me live another day, because people that died today had plans yesterday. So for me, and then when I wake up in the morning, if I could see something, because I lost my vision a couple years ago, I literally wake up. If I open my eyes and if I can see something, I say, God, thank you. Thank you for waking me up today. And no matter what challenges or what opportunities you're going to send me today, I accept them all. So before my feet hit the floor, I'm in gratitude. Before I go to sleep at night, I'm in gratitude. And I believe that if you go to bed with gratitude and you wake up with gratitude, your day is going to start off a lot better than if you went to bed watching the news and you woke up watching the news. So talk about gratitude.
I love it. And I just did a speech for a women's group in Fort Myers a couple of weeks ago. And that was my number one thing: have an attitude of gratitude, because again, it all stems back to it's a mindset. So when you wake up in the morning, I do the same thing. I'm 5 things before I get out of bed. Thank you for whatever. I mean, it doesn't even matter. Thank you for giving me another day. Thank you that I broke my foot and had surgery and I work and on my feet. So it's like, thank you for not having so much pain in my foot. It's anything I can think of. But for the people, again, I like to kind of point it, because I know you have so many people that are in all different phases of their life. This can be very hard to start with. Some people I know I've been there, where you go, I don't have any, what do I have? Find something. You have your life, if nothing else, to start there. Start small. You have another day. Like you said, you have your eyesight. If you have a roof over your head, thank you for having a roof over your head. If you don't have a roof over your head, thank you for having a head. I know it sounds crazy, and you sometimes have to start really small. But the more you do it, the more. And I for a while I challenged myself to not repeat things, so that was really challenging. But what it did to me is it made me start to be thankful for other people. Well, thank you that my friend Tina didn't end up getting divorced like I thought she was going to, based on a conversation the night before. And so before I even knew it, I was thinking for everybody else too. So I felt like that was even more positive energy going out into the world, because now other people are getting my prayers and my gratitude and my thankfulness. And it's an amazing practice. I highly recommend it.
All right. So, and like I said, I don't know where our conversation goes. That's why I love my show, because you know me, I don't script anything, because if we were going out for breakfast and having coffee, I'm not going to pull out a script and start asking questions. It's just 2 friends sitting down and talking. But I believe, for me, talking about gratitude again, and then we're talking about gratitude and vision boards, I believe that, like you said, if you don't have something, appreciate what you have already. Like for me, when I get done here, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I clean the kitchen. I wipe down the bathrooms. But as I'm cleaning the kitchen, as I'm wiping down, I'm like, Lord, thank you that I went from homeless to living in a $600,000 house. But thank you for the beach house that's coming. Right. Thank you for the boat that's coming. But thank you for what I have already. And because I believe that God, universe, whatever you call him, he's like a parent. Like if my daughter, my 12-year-old appreciates what I give her, anytime we go to the store, I'm gonna be like, what you want? What would you like? Because I know you appreciate everything I have. But if you're that snotty-nosed little brat that is saying, I want a beach house, but you don't take care of the house that you live in and appreciate the house that you live in, the universe is not going to give you that, because if you can't appreciate the small things, it can't trust you with the big things. So talk about that a little bit, about being grateful for what you have, but also have a vision for what you want in the future.
I mean, I agree 100% with what you're saying. I also, and like you said, the vision, picture yourself already having it. Thank you for that boat. Thank you for, if you have a 25-foot boat, envision yourself and thank you for that 50-foot boat you're going to have. It's just going, and again, it's what you think about, you bring about. It's the universe, or like you said, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, is going to find more ways to attract things to get you closer there. If you are constantly saying, gosh, I really wish I had this, but I don't think I ever will, forget it. You're throwing negativity out there. What the universe hears is never will. So it's always thinking in the future. And I love the idea of vision boards. I know one of my friends just had a vision board party and I wasn't able to go, and I was super sad about it, but it was literally just vision. What do you dream about? What do you think about that could, and it's not always monetary, obviously, because that would be pretty shallow. If you're always just thinking of the next big boat, how about, picturing yourself like, I want to go on an African safari and I want to go down and help children in Africa. So sometimes I picture myself surrounded by all little kids that need candy and food and shoes and all this stuff. So I think that's really important. And I think, like you said, I think it's super important that you are thankful for what you have, but also thankful for what you will have.
And and I picked up my phone, not because I'm trying to answer any calls, but on my phone, on my screensaver, I actually have the beach house that I want and the boat in front of it. I actually photoshopped it. So whenever I open up my phone, that's the first thing that I see. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because I believe in manifestation. I believe in vision boards. But 10 years ago, I put on my vision board that I want to go to Atlantis in the Bahamas. Why? I don't know. But I put it there. And then last year, my wife says, hey, guess where we're going? We're going on a cruise to the Bahamas. Now, you got it. My wife, well, she's my best friend in my life. She's everything. Her biggest fear is water.
Oh, wow.
So for her to say, hey, we're going on a cruise to the Bahamas. Oh, by the way, Atlantis is in the Bahamas. And we're going to go there. We're going to walk around. And then we're going to book our vacation to stay for a week in Atlantis next year. But I think if she didn't see it on my vision board, if I didn't talk about it all the time, that it wouldn't come to fruition. So talk about that, because a lot of people will say, they'll think, oh, I want to write a book, or I want to do this, but they don't put it out into the ether. And I think that once other people start hearing what your plans are, they're going to start pushing you. If they're the right people,
right,
they're going to start keep you accountable, but also start pushing you towards those goals. So talk about that, is putting what you want out into the ether or out into the world. So not only you're going to hear it, but the people around you are going to get involved in the dream also.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I've always said I want to retire in Florida. I want to retire in Florida. I didn't know how it was going to get me there. I've lived in like 18 different places. My father was military. My first husband was military, moved all over the place. And it was so funny. And I used to sit there, and I remember one time I went to what I consider now the normal Florida house. But back then it was like a big house, but it had the screened in pool area so the bugs couldn't get you. And it had the little hot tub. And I went to one like 20 years ago with a friend. And I remember saying that's going to be my house. That is going to be my house. And I laugh about it because I used to tell everybody, yeah, I'm going to live. It's not going to be a huge house. It's going to be a nice little house, but it's going to have the hot tub, the pool, and I always just said that. And when I turned 50, I don't know, I had a wild hair. It was like about 6 years ago. And I was just like, you know what? I think I should move to Florida. I'm like, I'm going to end up there anyway. So why don't I just, now why things are good and prices are high or low and everything's going on, why don't I just move to Florida? And my friends were so behind me that knew me, because they were like, yeah, and you can get the house with the net and the pool. And And I laugh now because I did. I just my husband walked away from a 36-year career to become a charter fisherman, has his own fishing business. And I literally have the 38-foot or 33-foot pool with the hot tub and the screen. And it literally is exactly what I pictured 25 years ago.
Okay,
and I
so
don't,
now, let's talk about it in street terms. Like, for me, anything that I've ever done wrong in my life, I had to think about it before I did it. I never got high or got drunk not thinking about it. And for me, so I'm trying to put it back into because I was never a, what's his name? Grant Cardone guy until I read his story. And I found out that he was once a drug addict and now success became his drug. But I think that whether you're going to be successful, whether it's sobriety, whether it's in business, whether it's in relationships, you always have to keep thinking. Like for me, I know that I can drink any day I want, just not today. I can get high tomorrow, just not today. And sobriety is always on my mind. Like if I look to my left, we have a whole refrigerator that has beer and wine in it, but that's not for me.
right.
But I also know I focus on my sobriety every single day. And like you said, you're what you think about, you become. So talk about that not only in life's terms, but also in sobriety's term. If you're thinking about the next fix, the next drink, or the next drug, guess who's going to relapse?
Yeah.
So talk about that as, that the thought process and change the way you're thinking about things.
Well, and it's interesting to me that you said that you thought about it before you took that drink. So, which means you were always on the path to be sober. You always wanted that for yourself, because I picture a lot of people that are in the throes of addiction that aren't thinking, oh, I mean, a lot of people do, but a lot of people are just going, or they're thinking, oh, I really need a drink, not I shouldn't be doing this. So I feel like you were destined for greatness anyway. You were destined to be there. But I think it's just replacing a habit. It's like you have to consciously think, and it's awareness of everything. It's aware. I mean, I know I didn't think through it when I was drinking way too much. I didn't think I really shouldn't do this. When I was just thinking, oh, I know this feels good. I was the other side. I wasn't thinking the negatives or the path to recovery. I was not. I was thinking I need to numb this. So I think just knowing that you are on that path and knowing that you need to replace those, I'm doing this because, with I should be doing this, or I want to be doing this because, and thinking of the positive aspects of it. I don't know if that really says what you're asking, but you can't just say, I'm just not going to drink. And you have to replace it with something, but you also, there's a big cognitive part of it I'm sure you beat yourself up how many times when you did it.
Yep.
So maybe even just, when you do have that small relapse, is giving yourself some grace and saying, okay, I'm back on the path because, and always having, I'm a big list person. I'm a big check off person. And it's like, I literally, before I would do something and I knew it wasn't a good idea, I literally still to this day will write a pros and cons list. So maybe even having, maybe that would have helped. I know, because I went through a tough time trying to stop that whole process, because it was just numbing, and it felt good, honestly.
Okay, but now for me and people that I've talked to that are successful in life or business, we have stuff called non-negotiables.
Right.
It's kind of like me. I just don't drink.
You just don't. Right. And it's not a question.
And once because I know, and I tell everybody, they'll ask me, well, why don't you drink? I tell them two things. One, I'm allergic to alcohol. I break out in handcuffs. And then two, I tell, listen, I drink, I die. Next.
Yep.
So for me, it's a non-negotiable. Like for me, if a man says, I don't cheat on my wife, it's a non-negotiable. Then you don't have to worry about it because it's something you don't do. And once you have that mindset, like if you're an athlete, and once you start saying, I'm an athlete, your mindset changes. And I think even if you're in recovery, if you're like, I just don't drink, I just don't do it. So for me, it's like, it's something that I don't do. And once you start having that mindset of, okay, well, I just don't do this, it's not me. I think that it can actually really flip the script. So talk about that a little bit, is how you portray yourself to yourself.
Well, that's a huge thing. And that goes back to with the worthiness, because I think one of the better quotes I heard this week was that you're not going to get what you do. You're going to get exactly to the level of where you believe you deserve. So with non-negotiables, I feel like, it's hard in the throes of an addiction. It's very hard to give yourself those non-negotiables. You have to believe you are worthy of what's on the other side of that recovery. It's because if I say to you and if I had said to my mother, hey, why don't you just tell yourself, I just don't drink, it's not an option, it wouldn't have worked for her. But because she wasn't ready to see what was on the other side. Like, if I drink, I die. If I drink, what do you say? I love that saying. Oh, you're allergic and you end up in handcuffs. What was it? What's that saying?
I'm allergic to alcohol. I break out in handcuffs.
Break out in handcuffs. I actually said that to someone. I told someone after you said that the first time. I was at work and we were talking about that. And I was like, oh my God, this guy said the funniest thing. That was awesome. But that wouldn't have worked for her because she wasn't ready to even find out what was on the other side. But like I have, even with my clients, I'll have them set non-negotiables with a boundary, with a boundary with a spouse. Like, I'm better than that. You will not talk to me that way and I will not tolerate it. And so sometimes boundaries, I set a lot of, non-negotiables for myself. Like, I won't let people treat me like that. And so it's kind of a different aspect of it. But I love non-negotiables because it's kind of like if you have a path and you're going right or left and you need to get to a certain point, what your end goal is. So if your end goal is sobriety, yes or no. So when you get to any point in the road, it's like, does it contribute to getting to your end point or does it contaminate it? And if it contributes it, it's a non-negotiable, bam. Or if it contaminates it, it's a non-negotiable. So I love the word that you throw that in, because I don't throw that in a lot, but it's the same concept. But yeah, here's your end goal. And does it help me get there or does it hurt me? And if it hurts me, it's not up for discussion. I just don't do it flat out.
So then, because I have a brand new podcast course and I teach my clients that, and obviously, guys, I'm a 9th grade dropout, so I haven't created anything new. I'm just standing on the shoulders of giants, and I'm just teaching what I've been taught, maybe just in a different way. But my brother, James Clear, wrote an amazing book called Atomic Habits, and now he has a brand new app. So if you guys don't know James Clear, you need to know James Clear. That he talks about 45 to 60% of everything we do every day is habits. So like for me, you can either have habits that are going to lead you to success, or you're going to have habits that lead you to failure. And like we were just talking about, if your habits are not going to get you closer to your goal, then it's taking you further away from your goal. Like when I'm talking to Tammy, my phone is away. I'm focused on what you're saying. I'm not worried about, what am I going to grab for lunch? What do I got to do tomorrow? I'm focused on today. And if you can create those positive moments,
Mhm.
every moment, then 5 years from now, you're going to be close to your goal or past your goal because you focused on it every moment for the last 5 years. So talk about how important your habits are to your success or your failure.
Huge. Habits are everything. And it's even like if you're going back to recovery, you can't, it is a big habit sometimes drinking. And that's why, when you stop that, even if it becomes a non-negotiable, it's like, okay, so what do I do now? Because now I'm trying to replace a habit. And some people just replace it with another habit that is not positive. So they will replace, I know so many people that stopped drinking and then they started gambling or they started binge eating or they started doing something else. So being aware of what your habits are, and the hardest part in recovery and the hardest part in healing from anything is really that self-assessment. Is what are you doing to self-sabotage? Because some people don't even realize how badly they are self-sabotaging. So it's finding, they used to say what you have to do something. I don't even remember what the first saying was. You had to do something like 10 times it became a habit. But you really have to make it a lifestyle change. You have to have it over and over and over again before it becomes a new habit. But you have to replace a habit that you're trying to get rid of with a more positive habit. So a good example would be if you're trying to cut on the sweets and you're just like, I'm type 2 diabetes now and I need to cut down on the sugar. So every time you think about sugar, start anchoring that sugar with, okay, well, water is good too. And I'm going to put a fake sweetener or whatever it is. And I'm going to replace every time I want that sugar, I'm going to replace it with something healthy every time. So it's really, I think a lot of it is replacing with positive habits because we all have habits. I mean, that's like you said, 40 to 60% of it's what we do. It's what we're used to. I know I'm trying to cut down on coffee right now, but my habit every morning, my comfort is getting up in the morning, driving to Dunkin' Donuts, getting my medium coffee and coming back. And I'm like, okay, I really don't need my coffee every day, but I'm like, what am I going to do instead? So, because that's become a habit and it's a comfort thing. So now it's like, okay, I'm going to get up in the morning. I'm going to have tea at home. And right now I'm in that. I have to fight that habit. I have to fight to replace it with something more positive because I've been doing this for 5 years every morning. So,
but like I told my wife yesterday, because we were talking about the same thing, that it takes 21 days to build a habit. Because it's kind of like the first day in your mind, it's like a little string. Then the second day, it's 2 strings. The third day, it's 3 strings. And eventually, after 30, 60 days, all of a sudden, you have cord. So it gets stronger and stronger. So eventually, if you start doing that one habit, it just becomes part of your norm. It becomes part of your day. And you don't really think about it. So if you prime yourself for success every day, eventually it's just gonna be like, yeah, I do this every day. Like for me, I always say anywhere I go, I'm favored. I'm favored whether I'm going shopping, whether I'm looking for a parking spot, whatever. I say you're favored. So everything's going to work out for you. And for me now, I don't even think about it. I'm like, yeah, all right, my parking spot's here. Who's moving out? And 90% of the time, somebody moves right out. My wife's like, how'd you do it? I'm like, because I'm highly favored. And I think once we start thinking like that, I think that's when we could be successful. But for the last couple minutes, I wanted to talk about, like, when you're in recovery, if you're sober or clean for 1 hour, you're a miracle.
Yep.
And no matter if you have 1 day, 2 days, celebrate your wins, because that's something that James talks about. Is sometimes you have to stack your wins, but celebrate your wins, like, and not forget where you come from. Like we're going out for dinner Friday night, and I know already I'm ordering steak, I'm ordering lobster, and every time I go out somewhere, I order the steak and lobster, even if I don't want it. I order it to remind me that 35 years ago, I was eating out of a garbage can and I was eating dog food. So for me, I eat that and I realize, okay, you're not there anymore. Remember where you come from, but remember the good life that you're living now. So talk about that. Talk about how, you have to celebrate your wins, but also don't forget where you come from.
Yeah, I think wins are huge. And again, in the beginning, like you said, it could be an hour. I made it an hour, and celebrate. If you're on a diet and you make it one day without having that cheesecake, celebrate, and have a accountability partner when you're celebrating.
Yep.
I have a group of people that we have a goal. Every Monday we set our goals for the week, and then every night we just real quick on a group chat just celebrate what we did or what happened good or whatever it was, because it gets you in that attitude of gratitude again, going back to that. But celebrating wins are very important. And you've kind of, it's funny that you use that, the lobster and the steak. You've kind of anchored that bad part of your life to something very positive. So that's like some NLP going on there,
Yep.
where you literally anchored, because every time you eat that steak and lobster, you kind of remember where you were, but it doesn't give it a horrible thing. It gives it the fact that you survived from that. And it was kind of like a scar, as a battle wound, it's a scar but it shows that you're resilient and it shows that you did that. So I love that you do that. But I think it's important because it just, well, for one, it keeps you humble, honestly. And I think the world needs less hypocrites, less people that, go into recovery and then shun the people that are still drinking. I think when you remember where you came from, it lets you come at things with a better sense of compassion and empathy because you've been there. It's been 35 years for you, but you've probably said to someone who is just starting out, you've probably used the words, "It wasn't too long ago that
Yep.
right?" And
Yep.
that's letting them look at you and go, wow, that can be me. So it works both ways with that. I don't know. I think that's important to remember where you come from. I don't like to see people. I mean, I have some very close people to me that are exactly like that. They smoked weed all growing up through high school and college and everything else. And then they stopped. And now it's like, I can't believe those people. And I'm like, whoa, no, why so much disgust on your face? That was you 20 years ago, So I think it keeps you humble too.
But something like you said, but when I also, because I sponsor people and I talk to people and I coach people, and I'm like, guys, I'm one drink away. Mm-hmm. I am one drink away from losing everything. So me and you were not different. We're the same people struggling with the same things, except I choose not to drink or use. And you'll get there, but time takes time. So you can't be sober for 35 years if you don't start 24 hours. So I love that. But something I want to talk about as we're winding down is it was around January, and here in New Jersey, it gets friggin' cold. And it was raining, it was cold, and it was garbage night. And I'm so pissed off. I'm kicking the garbage can. I'm taking it outside, mumbling under my breath like Fred Flintstone. And I turn around and I look, and my house is lit up with all the Christmas stuff. And I'm like, wait a minute. 35 years ago, 3 miles from where I'm at now, I was living in a crack house. I was eating dog food and eating out of a garbage can. Now I'm living in a beautiful house with 3 beautiful children, a beautiful bride. Here I am mad because I'm taking out the garbage, but I'm taking out the garbage of my own house. Right. And that's the moment when Tony Robbins clicked into my head. He said, once you change your have tos to I get tos, that's when your whole life really changes. So can you talk about that for a second?
Yes. And I think you should repeat that again for the listeners. Once I change my have tos to get tos. So it is literally not taking anything for granted, not taking, just really being grateful for what you have, and just embracing the fact that you have this life. I mean, literally, and everything is a choice. And we didn't even talk so much about choice. We've mentioned it a couple times, but I think that's like kind of where my heart is going, because once you have awareness, and that's why I love these podcasts. I love that you can just turn on all these stations and hear this stuff, because so many people are not aware that there is that other side, that there is that joy, and there is that, that authentic, what you were born to do, which we were all born to be absolutely amazing and abundant and prosperous and all of that stuff. But once you are aware of why you do what you do, that your past does not define you, that you are worth to have better, you will start making those choices, the right choices. Because you could have chosen to be really pissed about that whole thing, but you didn't. You turn around and you chose to be grateful. And and it's all about choices. So like you said, at every 1 minute when you're holding that drink, you can choose to take it, or you can choose to know that that is just one step closer to you dying.
Well, because now let's talk about choices for a minute. Because when we were on the show, your show, I actually had my T-shirt, "Today I Decide," and we talked about that. I was cold today, so I wore my hoodie. But underneath my T-shirt, my shirt, it says "Today I Decide," and that's something that I believe in. And I talk to people all the time. There's this guy called The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. He's got the same 1,440 minutes that we all have. It's what makes him uber successful is what he does with that 1,440 minutes. So for me, and my clients, I teach them, whatever you are doing with your 1,440 minutes, whatever you choose to do, that's if you're going to be successful or not. And for me, the three most important words in the English language are "today I decide."
Yep.
We decide, are we going to live a sober life, or are we going to get all banged up, be hungover, and live in anger and anxiety and pissed off because we screwed up again? So talk about choice and how what you do right now is going to dictate where you are 5 years from now by the choices you make now.
Oh, choices are everything. So literally everything. So what you do, like you said, what you do right now is going to lead you to the next action and the next action and the next action. And they become habits. And once you stop making the wrong choices, and you're not going to always get it right. So I do, want people to understand that sometimes you're going to make the wrong choices. Don't beat yourself up, give yourself some grace, and get back on track. Just know that, every choice that you make, it's like when my kids turned 18. I said, okay, guys, you're 18 now. And I know that I whatever, but now think about these choices that you make in split-second decisions will change your entire life if you make the wrong choices. So think smart, think through things, because it's easy to make a choice on a whim, but it's again, I go back to that awareness. It's being aware of, okay, I have a choice and I'm on a crossroads here, because how many crossroads of choices do we get every day? A lot of them. And you can go left or you can go right. You can go the right direction or the wrong direction. But you need to know that with every choice is a consequence. And, it's kind of like, okay, if my ultimate goal is being this authentic me and living out my joyous life and loving life and being kind to people and doing all that, when I go to snap at someone, I have a choice. I can say what's on my mind, or I can swallow my pride, move on, and not be mean to that person, because I know that choice will lead me into an hour of guilt. So it's just every single crossroads, you do have a choice, and it's going to affect the here and now, right here and now, and ultimately down the road. But I also do, like I said, I want to stress, don't beat yourself up about the choices that you've made in the past, because the past is the past. You can't change them. All you can do is start right here, right now, and start to make better choices.
And for me, I believe accountability is everything. Like my last interview today is with my friend Brian Lovinger. I message him every morning. All right. Because Sundays are my cheat days. I eat like total shit candy, Peeps, chocolate, whatever I want. But Monday morning, I'm like, hey, Brandon, I ate like shit yesterday. It was my cheat day. Today, I'm going to eat clean. I'm going to exercise today. Thank you for being my accountability partner. And so it's nice to have that accountability partner where even if you do screw up and you'd be like, hey, I screwed up, but I'm getting back on track. If you know, wait a minute, I have to reach out to Brandon tomorrow morning. So am I really going to eat the pizza now? Because I got to tell him in the morning. So how important is accountability partners?
Oh, huge. I have one client who doesn't like to walk on the treadmill, and she's like, I don't have time. I said, well, then when we talk for that hour every week, you're going to get on the treadmill while we're talking. And she finally said to me, she went on vacation last week and we didn't talk. And she's like, I feel so bad. I need to talk to you so bad because I didn't exercise. I didn't do anything. And I was like, that's what you need. That's why I'm there to push you. It is so important. It's just morale and it's tit for tat. You're going back and forth and you're helping each other when you have those accountability partners. But especially when you start out, I don't truly believe you can do it on your own. You need somebody in your corner, somebody that's egging you on to do the right thing, but is also going to hold you accountable and be that mama hen when you don't.
And I believe that. And like I said, I've been clean 35 years and I still go to meetings. And something that I believe in is that, I get drunk or I get high, but we stay clean and we stay sober. It's a we program. So guys, if you're alone, if you're sponsoring yourself, then you have a fool for a sponsor. I'm just saying that just so you know. So talk to us about your podcast and talk to us about what you're doing now. And I know before we got on, you said you're offering something to our listeners, and I'm truly humbled and grateful that you're willing to do that. So talk about your podcast and what you have going on now.
So my podcast is called Adult Child of Dysfunction, Thriving After Chaos. And it's literally just stories of people that have been through the rigmarole and have come out on the other side. So we do it's all stories of hope and healing. I want, and it can be all kinds of dysfunction because we've been through so many different things. My story is alcoholism and drug addiction with parents, and it's all kinds of stories. So I'm always looking for guests too that have stories of triumph and want to come on and share their story. But that's the podcast. And then on my website, which is just my name, TammyVincent.com, I do have a course called Trials to Triumph. First, I'd like to offer anybody that wants to reach out to me one free coaching session. So 45 minutes to an hour, we can talk about whatever. A lot of people just don't even know where to start or if they even want to start. So sometimes that is a good starting point. And then I'd also like to offer for the listeners, if you go to my website and you go on course, I do have an 8-week it's a self-guided course, but it's called Trials to Triumph. And it literally just talks about everything when you're kind of in the beginning process through really knowing how to set boundaries. It talks about codependent relationships. It talks about the difference between the subconscious mind and the conscious mind and kind of how to reprogram it. It gives articles. And then with that, once a week, there is a group coaching that goes along. So you can ask any questions that are in that. And I have a coupon on there. If you just use podcast as the coupon code, it gives you 75% off. So.
Okay. I'm writing all that stuff down. So, so this is a teaching podcast. And the last question I'm going to ask is, if there's somebody out there struggling with their sobriety, because we live in a crazy world, COVID's still going on. And I had my friend Simon Majumdar come on. He's on the Iron Chef, and now he's on Tournament of Champions. And he said, before COVID started till now, we've lost over 100,000 restaurants in the United States. And so a lot of parents are driving Uber, DoorDash just to pay the bills. And we have a very busy, hectic life. And if I ask somebody to do something in 7 days, they're never going to get to it. But if somebody's listening to our podcast right now and we ask him to do something in the next 24 hours, they're more likely to do it. So if somebody is struggling with their sobriety, what is something they can do in the next 24 hours to start to get some peace in their life? So what would be your top 3 pieces of advice that they can start doing to help get clean and sober?
I would say one is find a group or an accountability partner, somebody that you can work with immediately that can just help you talk to someone, reach out to someone. That's the first step. Second one is, I would say, really look at, make the pros and cons list. Really look at what you want, what you're struggling with, and kind of map it all out and write out your goals, write out what you want to do and where you want to be, and post it somewhere. The other thing is, I talk about the gratitude, but I mean, the accountability, the posting what you want, your vision for the future. And I would say the third thing would probably be, love yourself. Literally look in the mirror and tell yourself right now, start telling yourself you are worth it. I don't want to die. I want to love myself. Pray to your God, pray to whatever your higher power is. Understand that you can't do it alone, and surrender. And I think that would be the third step.
I love it. And guys, make sure you check out her social media. I'm following her everywhere. I love her LinkedIn. I love her Instagram pages. So make sure you follow Tammy everywhere. She is doing some amazing things. Now, guys, like I said, the book, Tammy's book is on the way, by the way, mailed out yesterday. So that's on the way to you, on the way to Florida. But my course is now available. If you want to start a profitable, powerful podcast, let me know. I'll get you the book. And the deal I had expired at April 15th, but I could probably work it out for you. If you're looking for an autographed copy of the book, I can get that to you. And I'm also doing one-on-one coaching. So if you want me to help you build a profitable podcast in 8 weeks, just let me know. So my last thing, guys, I just want to say, as you know, I'm a big Joel Osteen guy. I got the shirt on underneath this, but my favorite quote from him is today I decide. We can choose to be victims of our past, or we can choose to be victors of our past and our present. So guys, if you're watching this show, you are definitely victors of your future and your present. So thank you guys for always showing up. Tammy, thank you so much for everything you do. I can't wait to re-release our episode that we did. That's going to go out later. So guys, if you want to find out my story, I'll be dropping our episode in about an hour or so. Tammy, I just want to say thank you. I'm very humbled and grateful for your friendship.
Well, thank you so much. That was super fun, and I adore you.
Well, have a great week and keep kicking ass.